There's really no reason for me to be here at this point in my life. I was born with a cleft lip and palate. I have had numerous obstacles, both socially and personally, that should have kept me from accomplishing as much as I already have in life, but somehow I have persevered. However, there is one thing that I have battled despite all the success that I've had, and once I became self aware and realized that this one thing was holding me back a little bit, that is when I really started to grow and evolve and get to the point where I'm at today. Hi there, I am Marc Schmidt, and I'm here to talk to you today about imposter syndrome. And they define imposter syndrome as the persistent inability to believe that one's success is deserved or has been legitimately achieved as a result of one's own efforts or skills. And one thing that I have learned through social media, and social media has grown so much in my lifetime that now social media includes video content. And through video content and through the engagement that I have made on social media, if there's one thing that I have learned is that there's a lot of people out there who think that they are not quite good enough to be on camera or to get behind a mic or in front of a camera and speak. And I see lots of people on social media cross paths with really good people out there who are very smart and very capable and have all the tools. I would even say more, at least physical tools, than I might have, because when I speak, I really have to be mindful and make sure that I can be clear and be heard, because the cleft lip and palate issue that I was born with, it can definitely hinder how I am heard and how I'm understood and how I speak and how I just come across in general. And I've let that affect me for a very long time. I majored in television production, and I knew way deep down inside that there was like a performer within me. But I was always afraid to put myself out there, put myself behind a mic or in front of a camera, because of all of the things that I have been told growing up, that I wasn't good enough, I didn't have the right look, I didn't have the right sound, and even to an extent was maybe even told that I didn't have like the right personality or the ability to present and to speak. And I had to really dig deep down inside and find it within myself to believe. Now, when you're born with an issue like mine, you may have a real strong desire to go out there and really prove yourself. And that is something that was ingrained in me from a very early age. But there is something else that has really helped me along the way, even though support has not always been easy for me to get. I have really soaked in and taken advantage of the support that I have gotten along the way. And because of support, that has really helped me to understand that some of the things that I'm being told, or even some of the things that I'm telling myself, aren't necessarily true. And you have to get to a point where you stop yourself and reflect and give yourself a little bit of love and try to understand that what your supporters are telling you is actually the reality of your existence, and that you do have the intelligence and the ability to go out there and spread your message. And I have met potential podcasters, people who have ideas or really have a desire to go in front of the camera or behind the mic. And these are actual conversations I've had where they've said, no, I'm like too scared, or I sound funny on a recording. And there's one truth to a statement like that. And I struggled with this type of imposter syndrome for years because being born with a cleft lip and palate, I already kind of have it in the back of my mind that I sound a little bit different. I may not have like the golden voice and may not even have the looks to be on camera. And this kind of thing has floated around in my mind for many, many years. But I learned, especially from making my own content, that we all are going to sound a little weird to ourselves when we listen to a recording, especially if we're not used to hearing ourselves on tape or on a recorded message of any sort. So that is something that I think a lot of people don't realize or understand. But here is where it becomes more positive, and it has become more positive for me as I have practiced and I have continued to make content and listen to myself and work on my presentation and improve. I have not only gotten better the more I've practiced, but I've also come to learn that I really was never as bad as I thought I was growing up and into like my 20s and 30s. And it also took a lot of support. So if you post on social media, just you don't even have to necessarily have a direct niche or message to start out if you're looking to just build up your skill set and confidence. You can just pick a social media platform that you love, that you know you have supporters and people that can give you the right kind of feedback. Just hit record and start talking. That's all you really need to do. And I promise you, as you continue to make more and more content, and you get more and more support, not only from people you already know, but people who find you within the algorithm who are like, hey, I really like this person's content. I really like the way they present. You're going to find that this kind of feedback and support is going to mean the world to you. And your confidence is going to start to go through the roof. And I am telling you all this because that is exactly what happened to me. I was told at a networking event that I went to several years ago by a few different people that I should consider making video content and that I should even consider making a podcast. And that is not something that I ever considered. I got into my field to be behind the camera and behind the scenes because even though I had a very strong desire to put myself out there, I basically took what everybody had told me about myself and even what I had been telling myself to a degree and said, nope, I just don't have the right sound. I don't have the right look. That is not something that is possible. But when people started giving me feedback that they had the confidence and they could see something in me, that made me reevaluate and it made me rethink everything that I thought I knew about myself. So that's when I started recording content and speaking to topics that I knew and loved and believed in and just kept doing it. I kept hitting the record button and kept speaking my truth and my perspective. And one thing led to another And my presentation skills, I could notice from one video to the next that my skill set was getting better, my speaking was getting better, and I was speaking with confidence and with purpose. And by doing that, and by really working on my craft and my speaking, I started to realize that the message that some of these very positive supporters were giving me was the real truth of my existence. So, with that being said, and taking into consideration, I decided to go ahead and create a podcast based on all of the positive feedback and watching my content and actually seeing the value and seeing that I did have it in me to speak my life, my truth, and my message. And it has made it so much easier, not only for my own show, which I have seen tremendous growth in my performance as a presenter, but I've also seen a lot of growth in myself as a guest on podcasts as well. Because it's one thing to prepare for your own show and to know what you want to talk about and have everything outlined. But it's another thing to go on a show and maybe not know 100% what to expect. So, because I now have trained myself to become a better speaker and become more confident in myself and my ability to communicate to an audience and to speak publicly, I am now to the point, thanks to all the support, the self reflection, and the critique of myself as far as just looking at my own content and seeing that not only did I have a good enough sound and a good enough voice to present and to do this, but I also learned by the more shows and the more I practiced and the more I took the leap of faith, not only in being a guest, but just in myself and took the gamble on myself, I learned that, hey, this public speaking thing, this being a guest on shows, and this podcast hosting uh, gig that I have given to myself is not only rewarding and so gratifying and satisfying, and you make all kinds of connections, and there's so many benefits of being a host or a guest, but the real value is the confidence that you gain in yourself, not only as a person, but as a speaker. So, in closing, I really hope that you take this message and really consider, especially if you are an entrepreneur who has not been a guest on a show yet, or maybe you've had some rough appearances, or even if you're a podcast host, you're thinking about being a guest, and I know it's a little bit of a different ballgame to be a guest, but regardless of what it is, even if it's just speaking on social media, and there's a lot of people out there who don't believe that they're going to be a person that people will want to listen to. And that's entirely untrue. I am living proof that if you just take a couple of steps similar to the ones that I've taken, get support, practice, 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 take a leap of faith in yourself, believe in yourself, and understand that everybody has a voice. And while you may not like the way you sound, or maybe even the way you look when you first start speaking on camera, it will get better, and you will start to realize that you sound better than you believe you do at this point in your journey. And if there is one thing that I can do that I hope to accomplish in this world is to get as many people as I can to believe that imposter syndrome is just that, an imposter, and it is blocking and keeping you from doing greater things and the kind of things that are in your heart that you really would like to do. Thank you very much for listening. Have a wonderful day.